Hello and welcome to Stammer with me, John, husband and a father who at 37 discovered that he could run and has been a self-confessed fitness fanatic for over 30 years. Now today on Stammer we're going to address a comment that I received around the content that I made around the Puma RB. And the context of the comment was, how would I know how the shoe feels? This person didn't particularly like the content that I made, which is absolutely fine. It's there for people to judge. And how would I know what a shoe feels like after 6 miles, particularly when other people have said that it's fun, and what do I know? So I thought today would be interesting to address that point. So what I've done is I have taken the shoe out again. I took the shoe out again last night for another run, and this was a full out tempo run of 5 miles, and I wanted to really test this shoe at pace. And in future I am going to do a longer run in this shoe to see how it handles over a 10-mile run. So I did a run last night and let's see how we got on. So with this shoe, you know, what I said about the shoe for me aligns with this particular shoe. Now the Puma brand themselves, I absolutely love the Puma brand. You know, I love the Fast R too. You know, I think that this is a unique shoe. Again, this is a shoe that I bought. You know, I think there are some parts of the shoe that kind of do fall into that style over the substance, but this is a good shoe. This is the version 1. Version 2 is much improved, but this is version 1, and there is so many good points to this shoe that, you know, this actually makes this Puma RB, you know, look like a backward step. So everything from the upper in the shoe, you know, to the foam, the implementation of the foam, implementation to the plate, the upper on this thing is fantastic, and this is just an absolute brilliant Puma shoe, and I recommend, if anyone can pick this up, absolutely pick up the Fast R, because it is an absolute brilliant, fantastic shoe. And probably one of my favourite underrated sleeper shoes of all time is this Puma Elite #1. I cannot tell you how good the Elite is. I mean, this shoe, it doesn't look like much. This Elite foam in the shoe is absolutely fantastic. The upper in the shoe is amazing, and this is a really light shoe. So if you were to see this on the street, you wouldn't necessarily think anything of this shoe. Puma, what I love about this shoe more than anything else that Puma have done with this Elite is that they've kept it really simple. They've kept it simple, but the implementation of the plate grip in the shoe is good. So they've kept it simple, they've kept it light, and they've got such this amazing shoe on their hands. So I absolutely love this shoe. One of the parts of the comment that I thought was fair, and I needed to address that, was how I'd only taken the shoe out for 6 point something miles, and how could I possibly know, and how is that fair on the shoe to be able to know what a shoe's like after only 6 and a bit miles. Now, in my defense, I've tested many shoes. Some shoes do need time to kind of be able to bed in that shoe. Now, I just need to emphasize this, that this is a £300 shoe. This is the most expensive shoe that I've bought. This is the most expensive shoe that I own. Now, other shoes that I've had that for the time were expensive and are super shoes, carbon plated shoes, or, you know, expensive shoes, 95 to 99% of those shoes I've been able to put on my feet, take them out for a run, and instantaneously I know within the first 3 miles, 6 miles, I know what that shoe is like. And I've got some examples behind me there, you know, like the Skyward X, you've got the Rocket X2, you've got the Alpha Fly, the Mizuno Wave Rebellions up there. You've also got something like the Adidas Adizero Pro 2 as well. And those shoes for the time, you know, we're talking £180 to £200. And again, you know, £100 less than the shoe, carbon plated shoe, super foamy shoe that I was able to put on my feet and take them out for a ride. So where I think the fairness lies there is, you know, I've been equally as fair to all these shoes and the shoe, taking the shoe out for an initial run and getting my thoughts on that. So what I thought I'd do, as this is a unique shoe, I'm going to take it out again tonight. So I'm going to take this out again tonight, probably going to do another 6 miles in the shoe, and I want it to change my mind. What I'm looking to see really is, again, was that run just a typical run for the shoe? Was it just that it needed those miles to break into the shoe? This shoe was not sent to me, so this shoe was not sent to me at all. So I can be completely unbiased at all, and it's not in my interest to annoy Puma. It's not in my interest to say that a shoe is particularly bad, because if I'm, you know, if I say bad things about a shoe, surely it would be in my interest to say good things about a shoe in hope that Puma are going to send me a shoe. Now, my integrity will not allow me to say something is good, and it allows me to tell you when something is bad. And my initial run in the shoe is that, you know, that is an okay shoe, but for the money, the price, what it is they're trying to do with the shoe, ultimately this is a terrible shoe. Now, I'm willing to have my mind changed on that point. To be super fair to the shoe as well, the training that I'm in, I'm peaking and I'm running some pretty good time. So give you an example of a time that I've recently ran. I did a tempo 8 mile and I broke my 10k PB and I went to 35:24. So I'm not injured, unlike some of the shoes that I've been in, and I have probably not been at my best. Right now, it's probably in the best position I've been for in the last 2 to 3 years. So I'm testing these when I'm feeling good, testing these at peak. So there's no excuses for this shoe. So I'm probably going to be more fair to this shoe than I have on any other. Probably the reason for that is because I think it's such an interesting, divisive shoe. Even though at this point in time, I'm not the biggest fan of it. It's probably one of the worst shoes of that price and what they're trying to do, put on feet. But I'm going to give it another try. I'm going to put it on purely because, you know, it's £300, and that alludes to the fact as well that it's £300, and, you know, I'm going to test this so you don't have to waste your hard-earned cash on this as well. You know, as I say, I purchased this shoe with my own cash, so I'm not obliged. Wasn't sent these shoes to review, so I bought these and I'm going to take them out. So again, as I said, I am in kind of peak performance mode. I did a PB 10k of 35:24 in probably one of the best shoes I've ever tested of all time. It's just Hoka Rocket X, and even though I've taken the Hoka Rocket X on an ultra marathon, it's been through rocks, it's been through the whole lot. The other one of these has got a big hole in the side. In fact, it's right here. Has got a hole in the side of the shoe. The upper, the other parts of the upper are really good, and this is the shoe that I ran my kind of tempo PB in on weekend just gone. You know, this upper again doesn't feel tight enough on the shoe. You know, I just don't think this upper material is right for this shoe. It just doesn't feel like it should. You know, I would like to have seen sort of more of a really tighter sort of skinned kind of upper. If you're not going to put a laces on shoe, then they kind of really need to be a tighter fitting upper, and it's just not. So laces, I think, would have definitely improved the upper on this shoe. You know, it is quite a thick upper on this shoe, you know, compared to something like this Hoka, compared to something like, even comparing it to the other Puma shoes, the Fast R, you know, this upper is absolutely fantastic. The Deviate Elite, again, this upper on here is absolutely brilliant. And also, you know, something like the Adizero Adios Pro 2, you know, this upper is actually first class. It's brilliant. So, you know, those are the uppers that I kind of now expect on the shoes. This shoe is aligned with something like the Alpha Fly. So whether or not that was Puma's, you intention to put it up against something like this. You know, this Alphafly is one of the best shoes of all time. Really closely followed, and I mean it's really close now, between this Hoka Rocket X2 for me and the Alphafly. And I've run some PBs in both shoes. I think that probably the Hoka Rocket X2 for me is coming up to probably edging out the shoe. But for comparison wise, I do think that probably for comparison purposes, I think that this RB is definitely more comparable to the Alphafly. So I'm definitely giving it more of a fair test than I would. So I'm going to take this out now. It's dark out there. We're going to go for a run and we're going to see how we do. So let's get to it. So with that run in mind, so taking it out again last night, on full disclosure, I run a PB last night of 15:59. So I've had a 16:05 for probably about 3 years, and I think, as I say, the training that I'm currently in, I'm running some faster paces. I feel really good, and I'm not injured. So last night was a perfect time just to try to give it a go and see what the shoe could do. And the shoe managed to get me to 15:59. Now, how much of that was the shoe and how much of that was me? So in terms of the 15:59, I cannot dispute that this shoe, given the right circumstances, is a fast shoe. Do I think I achieved the time solely down to the shoe? I'm going to say no. I run a 10k PB Sunday gone in the Hoka Rocket X2, and I think last night I could have done the same thing in the Hoka Rocket X2. We'll still concede to the point that this is a fast shoe, again under the right conditions. So let's talk about the shoe and then we can talk about the run. So in terms of the shoe, working from the bottom up, it was taking me back about the shoe of how stable the shoe actually is. So for a 56mm stack shoe, 56, 46 stack shoe, and you can actually feel this in hand, is how stable the shoe actually is for such a high stack shoe. I think the shoe's wide enough to give you that platform. Now I think this comes from the pods. So the pods in here are made of foam, and they squish down to the point where actually it compresses from a 56mm stack shoe quite a bit, and you actually land on this midfoot, and it actually feels really quite stable. So I'm really surprised, and I take my hat off to Puma for being able to do that with such a high stack shoe. So we've got these pods sandwiched between these two plates. These are TPU with some carbon in them plates, and the idea of those is to compress the foot down and then you spring forward. Now in my mind, I can already see that the pods are starting to come away, and using the term pods, technically it would be pods, but I don't think they're very good. I think the Alphafly Air Zoom pods are better than these. I think those do something different in terms of how they're made, in terms of the propulsion that they manage to give you. These are more foam pods that are just made of foam, that are really compressive. And do they spring you forward as much as those? No, they don't. And I think that whilst I like the concept of these pods, I think they're a definite miss. You've got these three plates in the shoe. You have a carbon plate that runs through the entire shoe. You have this TPU carbon plate that sandwiches the pods. So considering you have three plates in the shoe, I would be expecting the propulsion from that to be more pronounced than it is. You do feel that propulsion from the carbon plate and the pod, but it's not more than, say, something like an Alphafly, or even for that matter something like a Rocket X2, or even a Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro. The foam in the shoe I think is a good foam. This is their new Puma Elite foam, and it is a nice foam. It's a squashy foam, it's a comfortable foam. Energy return in the foam feels pretty good, but again, is this different to something like on the Hoka Rocket X2, something like an Alphafly? And the answer to that is no. It feels very much like those shoes. Let me get to the upper of the shoe, which I think for me is probably the biggest bone of contention for me in the shoe. Even though I managed to run a PB in the shoe last night, this upper is still a terrible upper. I will not concede point on the upper. I just think the upper is, in terms of thickness, I think it's far too thick. It doesn't hug the foot correctly, and when you're in your full stride, it actually doesn't hold on to the foot great. You can't feel the heel counter in the back. It locks you down from the forefoot to the midfoot, just in this sort of kind of pocket here, but it actually feels then like the rest of the shoe isn't there, and you feel like your foot moves around quite a lot in the shoe. So when I put all that together and I think about the run that I had last night, so 15:59 is nothing to be sniffed at, and you know, I have to say that I've achieved it in this shoe. So in terms of speed, obviously the speed is there. Do I think the time was down to the shoe? No, I don't. Do I think the shoe kind of helped with their time? Yes, I do. In terms of feel on the foot, you know, this has been described as a fun shoe. I'm not going to disagree that it doesn't feel on foot at certain paces under certain circumstances, that it feels like an interesting shoe, but no more different to another carbon plated shoe, again like an Alpha Fly, again like a Hoka Rocket X2, again like an Adidas Adizero Pro. It doesn't feel different to those shoes as such, but the midsole does feel good. The plates feel fine. The platform in the shoe is actually really good for the stack. I can't feel the pods necessarily. I don't think these pods are great. I don't think they work on the shoe, but the midsole is absolutely fine and it's okay. So when you run, the biggest issue for me is this upper. This upper does not lock you down. So something like an Alpha Fly, again, because I'm comparing it to that, because basically it is that. The laces on that shoe, so that Alpha Fly is a very similar shoe to this, but the laces on the Atom knit of that shoe really add to the shoe, and really you're able to get a lockdown in that shoe. I think a lot of the problems with this shoe would be alleviated if you had laces. However, it still doesn't make up for the fact that when you put your foot into the shoe, you do sink down into the forefoot, because that's where it wants you to run. It wants you to get up on the forefoot of the shoe, and it really wants you to run in that particular way with this shoe. And it's just a fast shoe. It's you have to give everything to the shoe to get the best out of the shoe. You know, if you then start to sort of come off that high pace, then it doesn't feel particularly great, and you can't feel all that tech in there. And I think if you heel strike in the shoe and you kind of more so fall towards the backwards, this shoe definitely isn't for you. It's just a really odd feeling like there's a gap between the heel counter and the heel of your foot. I think that this feels like a very cumbersome, very heavy upper. I don't understand why it needs to be this thick. I don't get what the purpose of that actually is on the shoe, and it's just not a very well made, I don't think, a very good feeling, good fitting upper on the shoe. The biggest problem that I've got, and I still have with this shoe, is that even if you take out the price, this is not different to any other shoe, and the additional factor that you've got to that is nobody's going to race in this shoe because it's an illegal shoe. So from a observation point, if this say was a quicker shoe than a Hoka, than an Alpha Fly, nobody's going to run it. Nobody's going to use this shoe to race in. So, you know, this is aimed maybe not at elites, this is maybe aimed at a standard person. Now, standard people paying £300 for a pair of shoes is not something that should be considered lightly, particularly when I believe the shoe is a very niche shoe. So the shoe is not going to suit everybody. The shoe, for me, I would not use this shoe in a half marathon. I would not use this shoe in a full marathon. I use it probably for a 5k to a 10k. And even then, this is not going to be for everybody. You need to turn over your legs fast, and you need to be able to get the speed in the shoe. Your feet feels like it's all over the shop, and it just doesn't. The overall feel of the shoe, again, is nothing special in the shoe. So it's a £300 limited use case shoe. So as a concept, it's absolutely fine. It's great. A lot of people have been sent the shoe. I've bought this shoe, and as a concept, that's great. But are we now spending £300 on a concept shoe that's out there for people to buy? It's not like it's only been sent to people and you couldn't purchase the shoe. I could purchase the shoe. I think it's really easy for Puma to just say, oh, actually, it doesn't count because it's a concept shoe. It may be a concept shoe, but it's a running shoe that you're able to buy, so you can only be judged on that point. I love the Puma brand. This is not about the Puma brand. I have the Fast R and the Elite, which I've already said are fantastic shoes. And with that accumulation of technology and experience that they had in the last couple of years, I think to bring out a shoe like this, under the price point that they have, under the guise that it's a concept fun shoe, I just don't think that's great. And want people to pay £300 for this shoe that's clearly not complete. Somebody needed to put their foot in the shoe and go, yes, we want people to pay the money for the shoe. If the shoe brought something different to the market, and even if it wasn't this amazing shoe, but it did everything right, and the apple was great, and it was a well put together, well made, well thought out shoe, then I get that point. I get that paying £300 for this kind of shoe would be okay. But again, somebody at Puma must have put this foot in the shoe, put the foot in the shoe, and gone, yeah, this is fine. This is great. I admire the concept. I admire what it is that they're trying to do, but just the execution of this shoe, and I'm talking from the perspective of an ordinary person who's having to buy this shoe. And the only thing that I've heard is it's a fun shoe. It's a bit heavy, but it's a fun shoe. I don't think it's a fun shoe. I think that it's an okay shoe, but there are so many shoes at a cheaper price point, even that Puma make, even that Puma do, are far superior to this shoe. So it's almost like, if this is a collector's piece, I think that Puma should have advertised this as a concept, not as a running shoe, because this is not what it is. This is a concept, like a concept car that you actually can't really buy, but it's a concept shoe that should be advertised as such, with the premise behind it as, you can run in the shoe, but this is more of a case of, look at what we're thinking, look at, in terms of, the tech that we can put into the shoe, and kind of not promote it as a running shoe, but more as a design concept shoe. So on that note, please don't forget to comment. That's really important. To like, favourite and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care.